Hi, my name is Kristin, and this is Kristin and Kraves Books, and I have no idea when you're seeing this video. So, as you may know, I have committed to reading all of the SPFBO finalists this year, which is quite an undertaking for me as somebody who is, I like fantasy, but I feel like I'm more of a low fantasy reader, and there's some epic fantasies in there, but there are actually a lot of cozy fantasies as well. And if you're interested in seeing my prediction video before watching this to see if my predictions were right, I will leave that down below and linked in the cards. But I'm reading all the finalists along with Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy, along with some fellow members of the book community. And I thought I would vlog the experience because I think it's going to be a journey, and I thought that that might be interesting to watch. I've been enjoying watching other people read all of the finalists. This definitely is going to be an award that I follow more closely. I have really started to embrace indie releases, so I'm really excited about this. I might do this vlog all in one, but it might be too long. I might split it up. Who knows? Who knows when you're seeing this? But yes, I'm so excited. And the one that I'm going to start with, and I've already started, is Small Miracles by Olivia Atwater, who wrote Have a Soul, which is getting a lot of love. I think everybody loves that, even if you're not typically like a cozy fantasy reader, people love that. So I'm excited to experience Olivia Atwater's writing. And I'm going to tell you the days, every day at time I film, just to see how long this takes me. But it is December 7th today. And last night I was on reading sprints with Leslie from the Nerdy Narrative. We are co-hosts for the Reindeer Readathon, and we sprinted last night together. And I managed to start this and get to page 67, which is amazing. This is high on my predictions because it's exactly the kind of thing that I love right now, and it's meeting all my expectations so far. So I'm on chapter 8. This is not a very long book. It's under 300 pages, so I will get to this and finish this pretty quickly. So I don't think you're going to see tons of clips of me talking about this, because about like this, there's just not a lot to talk about. But the tagline here is bad angels, good intentions, and that is exactly what this is. Our main character's name is Gadriel, yes, with a D. They make a big point of saying their name's Gadriel with a D because they are an angel, and people often pray to Gabriel, and she has to ignore those prayers because she's Gadriel. But she's a fallen angel because she believes in some sins. She thinks it's not a sin to indulge in too much chocolate. Like some things that are considered sins, she just thinks are ridiculous, and so she is a fallen angel. And she is sent on a task by somebody who is an angel and she's friends with to... The way this world is set up is you have like a point system, and when you do something good, you get points. When you do something that's considered a sin, you get negative points, and she has to follow this person around and get them to sin more, I guess. And this person she's following is just so good that she's struggling with this, and our main character normally can persuade people to do things like pick the hot chocolate, get the extra whipped cream. Somehow that's a sin, and she thinks that's ridiculous, and she's right about that. So she like convinces people to say how they really feel, even if it's mean and hurtful. So she's trying with this character, and it's not working. And angels in this world are invisible, so they have to take on a human form. So we get to see different iterations of the people that she pretends to be, and sometimes they are women, sometimes they are man. I don't know, it's just kind of an interesting premise, the whole thing. The things that I'm struggling with is footnotes, and that is me, because there are some funny footnotes. I do really like the footnotes in here. I think they add something to it. I do think that there's a way that Olivia Atwater could have integrated the footnotes into the story, because when I come across an annotation for a footnote, I miss it. And then I get to the footnote, I'm like, oh, I missed it. I have to go back, try to remember what that was referencing. But don't skip the footnotes because they're fun. I do think they add a lot of context. They add a lot of the humor that you're getting in this. And this is quite humorous. It's just funness. And I'm appreciating it. I don't think that everybody is going to love this. It'll be interesting. We have a rubric that Cassidy made to score this on, so I'm excited to see how it falls with that. But people are loving this already in the group. A lot of people are way ahead of me right now. This is my first one, and some people have read like 6 or 7, so I need to pick up the pace. But this is getting pretty good marks. I can see why. It's exactly the kind of thing I like, and I'm feeling pretty confident about my predictions right now, considering everybody else's scores. And I wasn't as confident when I made the video, but I'm feeling confident now. So yes, a little bit of sin is good for the soul, and I'm loving this. And the next time I'll update you is probably when this is over, and then I'm going to start Touch of Light after I read a few holiday romances in between, of course, because it is December after all. So I finished Small Miracles last night, and I'm here today to go through the rubric. I know the lighting here isn't the best, but I have to be at my desk to go through this rubric that Cassidy created, and I'm going to leave a link to the website where you can find the rubric, because I think that I might start to reference this rubric even after I'm done reading all the SPFBO finalists, because I know this is only the first book, but I've realized something about my reading, and that is how much weight I put into enjoyment, which I think is normal. I think a lot of us do a rating, it's just based on gut, a vibe, just how you feel about it. It's just like an instinct thing that you can't really explain. But it is kind of nice to have these questions and these categories to look through and really think about. But even as I did this, I already went through this, but I'm going to talk you through it here. My enjoyment score is higher than any of the other scores because it's just a guttural feeling. And I think if you're a book lover, you understand what I'm talking about. It's not something you can really put into words. But the rubric is broken down into different categories. So we have characters, plot, writing, world building / setting, and enjoyment. And then there are questions in each of these. So we'll just go through it. So for characters, it's, do their motives make sense? Do they act their age? I would say they do. They all have interesting motives. They all have some kind of backstory. We have a teenage girl in here who very much acts her age, especially when you think of all that she's been through. And I definitely felt for them. They are compelling characters, and they're certainly distinguishable from one another, which I really appreciated. They all have very different personalities, which led to me feeling different ways about them, and I really liked that. And I think the sinning aspect where you're tracking their sins kind of helps you understand their characters more, so that was an interesting device. And do you understand them? Are they nuanced characters or flat? I understand them, but this is where my score was lowered a bit because I don't think they're as nuanced as they can be. They're kind of black and white, even though our main character Gabriel does live in the gray when it comes to sins and good intentions and things like that. It's very flat in terms of their reasonings. Like in this world, eating too much chocolate is a sin, and they're very against that. That makes sense, but they just really focus on those kind of things. I wish we went a little bit deeper into sins and stuff like that. I do think there could have been more depth, but these are very compelling characters in their own right. It is a cozy fantasy. It is on the shorter side, so you're not going to get full backstories, full nuances. I actually wish we had got a prequel to this because I would love the story of Gabriel becoming a fallen angel. I think that would be really compelling. So maybe that's something Olivia Atwater can do in the future, because I know that she does tend to write books within the same world, so I'd be intrigued about that. Are there side characters, not just the protagonist? There are some side characters. They're not really, we don't get a lot about them. Some of them did feel a little bit like caricatures, especially like the teachers and the parents at the school that Gabriel becomes like a school counselor there, and they can feel like characters at times, and so some of the other students there as well. But there are some good side characters, some good scenes with some side characters that Holly, our other main character, works with. I thought they were fun. So I gave characters a 7.5 out of 10 because I do think we could have gotten more in depth. They could have been more nuanced. And then plot, does it make sense? Are there plot holes or plot conveniences? There are, I would say, plot conveniences, but done intentionally. I think when you think of the subgenre of this, that's kind of fun. It's supposed to be quirky and fun. You're not supposed to take it too seriously. We are talking about angels here and fallen angels and stuff, so that didn't bother me at all. How's the pacing? Is it done well or uneven? I would say it's a little uneven. So in the middle, even though that this is a pretty short book, it did drag a little for me in the middle, and I think that is just because it got a little repetitive. The footnotes where we keep score of when they're sinning, when they're doing something good, became a little monotonous for me, that I actually stopped reading them because I didn't even think it was important in the end. So I think if you're going to read this, don't get too hung up on that, but do read the other footnotes. They're fun. How's the foreshadowing? I do think there's some foreshadowing in here that leads to the ending, so I think that's good. Was the story unique? The idea of good versus evil, angels, devils, fallen angels, all that, sins, it's not unique, but I think the way that Olivia Atwater presents it is unique. How she tells the story is unique. So I do think she does something interesting and new with that. Are there plot twists? Are they done well? I don't think that this is not like going to be a typical fantasy where it's really plot twist heavy, but there were some things that were unpredictable for me and I thought were well handled. So for plot, I gave this a 7, just because this is not a plot focused book. This is not what you're gonna pick this up and think you're gonna get a lot of action scenes or a big shocking twist or a lot of plot. This is just following these characters going through life, learning things about themselves, forming new relationships. And there is actually a love story in here. I wouldn't call this a romance, but there is a love story that is woven in through this. So it's not really, the plot is not the focus. I don't think that this is one I would recommend to plot-driven readers. And then the writing, how is the prose? Does it work for you? Are there editing issues? I didn't notice any, but that's not what I was reading this for. And I liked Olivia Atwater's writing quite a bit. I will definitely read more from her. How are the themes and content? Does it make sense for the genre slash subgenre it's in? The themes are a little heavy-handed, but again, I think that's intentional. This is a great addition to the cozy fantasy subgenre. I know that is huge right now, and you'll probably hear me recommending this a lot when people ask about that, so I think it's perfect. Sorry, my card got full there, so I don't know where I was. Let me see. I think I was talking about the writing and the dialogue. So the dialogue in here is a little bit clunky, but I think if you think about this subgenre and just cozy fantasy in general, it's supposed to be clunkier, maybe not as realistic, more quirky and fun, so it didn't bother me in any way. And did the author leave things unexplained? Were things clear? There are some things unexplained in terms of the rules of the gods, but even Gadriel, our main character, is confused by them. This is just the way things are done. Nobody questions it. When you question things, you become a fallen angel. So it made sense that we didn't get all the answers in terms of what's a sin, what's not a sin. So again, didn't bother me. I gave the writing an 8. I really think that this is strong writing, not perfect, but really well done. I will read more from this author. World building setting, because this is set in our own world, there's not a lot of world building, but the setting worked. The atmosphere was good. The magic system didn't all make sense, as I've said, but I don't think it's supposed to. I didn't think it contradicted itself in a way that wasn't unintended. I could picture the world because it's our own world, but I liked the setting. We were in coffee shops, we were at a store, we were in a school, so like it all just worked to create the right vibe for a cozy mystery, for a story of this kind. So all that worked. Gave setting an 8. And enjoyment, personal to you, how did you enjoy it? It's a 9. So just so interesting. I gave 7.5, 7, 8, 8, and then my overall enjoyment is a 9. So again, it's just a gut thing. What does my average come out to on this? I love that this just calculates it for itself. So 7.8, which is like a high 3.5, almost a 4, which in my gut, if I was going to put this on Goodreads right now, I would give it a 4 star. So that seems pretty accurate, which is fun. And I just liked to read this knowing that rubric is in mind, but then ultimately enjoyment comes into play, and I like that Cassidy recognizes that. So this has been getting a lot of love so far on our scoreboard here. I'll be interested to see some people who haven't read it, what they think, but I'm having fun. I had so much fun with this, and now I kind of want to drop everything and read more by her. I know Half a Soul is well up, and hopefully by the time you're seeing this video, I have read Half a Soul because I really want to. But what I'm starting next, wow, this is heavy, is A Touch of Light by Tiago Abdallah, and I'm nervous. This is, I put this high on my predictions list. This might have been 3rd, and this might have been 2nd. I know Miss Percy's Guide to Dragons is 1st, because obviously, but this I think might be 2nd, and that is Cassie's influence. So I'm just going on that. Cassie is good at selling a book to you, but I'm nervous about this one. But it is December 9th. I'm going to take my time with this. I'm not going to get too hung up on it. I have a few of the other finalists on my Christmas wish list, so hopefully I will be gifted a few of those from friends and family, and I will get to another one in December. I'm tempted to get to, what's the one everybody's loving right now? Skills and Sensibility, which is so funny. Everybody seems to be reading that and enjoying it right now, so I'm hoping to get to that too. But this is the one we're going to tackle next. I'll keep you posted. Excuse the terrible lighting. I am in the basement getting ready for a live show, but I did a reading sprint with everybody, the hosts of the Reindeer Readathon last night, and we had so much fun. Everybody's just so hilarious. Like Kristin and Mo from Rumi's Digest just cracked me up. I actually have a clip of them dancing while we were reading. They were doing like their own little dance party, which I thought was really cute, so I secretly recorded that. and it was just so much fun. And during the sprinting, I think we sprinted for about 4 hours, but there was a lot of talking in there. I did watch some booktube while we were supposed to be reading, but I did make some progress on A Touch of Light, and I have to say I'm kind of loving this, which shouldn't surprise me considering when in my prediction video this is in second place. That is largely just based on trusting Cassidy, and this is reading so fast. I am really into this world. I'm confused, but I think that's intentional. Things are starting to make more sense. There's a really good like character list at the beginning and tells you about the organizations and the different churches, which I appreciate and I'm definitely referencing. But if you were into action scenes, pick this up. I'm typically not, but they're pretty epic. More like one-on-one fight scenes or like somebody just really slaying all these people at once. There's like a knife in the skull. It's quite graphic right from the beginning. We're getting murders and killings and battles and fights, and I'm into it and I'm enjoying it. I said on the thing, like, this is a good time. I'm having fun. And that's normally not my thing, but I think the pacing in here is just working. And it's funny because I'm going to do a live discussion of Black Sun here in a minute. And that is, I think we get 4 perspectives by the end, but really it's 3 throughout the majority of it. And there was one perspective I loved. The other 2 I was ambivalent about. This one, we're getting 3 perspectives right now, and I'm into them all. So it just shows you what a difference that can make. And I'm such a character-driven reader, even though this is very much about the action scenes right now. I think the characters are at the forefront. We don't have too much plot yet, but I can see where it's going. Did I say how far I'm into this? 133 pages. So I've made a huge dent in this in one night. I thought that this would be a slog for me, and it's not. So I'm just thrilled. I am so excited that I am loving this. So excited for Cassidy that I'm loving this. And yeah, so I think you're going to see me check in. I'll probably check in with you once before I get to the end on this one, because I think there's more to discuss than in Small Miracles. But it'll be interesting to see how I feel about them both, because this is just showing me how broad fantasy is. Like, and I'm open to all of it. Because Small Miracles is so cozy, so slice of life, and this is so broad, so many characters. This is its own world, where Small Miracles is set in our own world, and it's just the vibes are completely different, but me as a reader can enjoy them both. And I just love that. It's just so, we can contain multitudes, which is just so fun. And this is really showing that to me and making me want to embrace more things like this. And I will just read whatever Cassidy likes. This is probably what I should do if I was smart. So loving it. And it's making me less scared about the ones I was scared about. So is it Umbral Storm and The Fire of the Forebears? Still terrified, but not as scared. It is December 16th and I finished A Touch of Light last night, and I know it took me a while, but I was really taking my time with this, even though I think this is fast-paced. There is a lot to take in, and I'm sure I missed a lot. I know a lot went over my head, but I had a good time with it. If you are into a lot of fighting scenes, a lot of killings, you're gonna like this. And the thing is, the ending, I think that it's a good thing that the next book comes out in January, is what I'm gonna say for that. I won't get to it in January because I have all the other SPFBO books I need to read and other things. I just know myself. I'm trying to get better about series, but I'm not that good. But the sequel to this does come out in January, and if you are somebody who marathon series, I highly recommend making sure you have the second book ready, because I thought this ending was quite interesting, and I am curious to see where this goes. Now on the sprints last night, it was funny because I was sprinting with Leslie from The Nerdy Narrative, and she was reading the prequel to this, which was hilarious and not planned at all. And I was wondering if I should have read the prequel first, and if that would have explained some of the things that I was confused about in this one. I'll have to ask her when she's done the prequel and this what she thought. But I'm thinking it's probably best that I didn't, because I didn't want the prequel to taint my idea of this book and my ratings of this book. So especially since this was written first and the prequel was written after. So in theory, you should be able to get everything you need to get out of this book just by reading it, not having to read any other books. And I know that's making it sound like I didn't like it. I actually really liked it, even though it's so out of my comfort zone. Do I have the other book here? Let me just grab this. So So far I've read these 2 books and they could not be more different, which I just think is fantastic. And I think we're gonna get a huge variety of things happening on this short list, and I kind of am obsessed with that. This, let me go through the rubric, because I was talking about the rubric last night. I'm like, thank God for the rubric, because I don't even know how to begin to parse out my feelings on this one. Characters, do their motives make sense for them? Do they act their age? Do you feel them? The thing about the characters in this one is I was interested in them. I thought we get 3 perspectives in here, and I thought each perspective was compelling. I think I said that in a previous clip that you know, sometimes in 3 POVs or more POVs, you only care about some of the points of view. I cared about them all equally, but I think care is the wrong word. I was interested, but I wasn't invested. I think that's what that boils down to. I think they're all interesting characters. I think maybe there's too much action happening for me to really feel a connection to them. And I'm one of these people that in a high fantasy like this, I know that there's potential for people to die, so I keep them at an arm's length. That is my personality to a T, so it's hard for me to really get deeply connected in a way that I would in something like this, where you know it's going to be a cozy, happy ending and it's safe to fall for these characters. In this one, the outcome's not as certain, and you don't get like the slice of life stuff. It's just a different vibe. But the characters, for what they were really intriguing. So it's a hard one to pinpoint. So what am I getting? I think maybe they're an 8? Could they be an 8? I think it might be an 8, because even though, what did I give? See, this is the problem. I'm going to fall into this thing where I go and I look at what I gave Small Miracles. I gave the characters in Small Miracles a 7.5, which I still stand behind. But I do think that even though I wasn't as invested in these, are they better characters? Maybe I'll give them a 7. See, this is a problem. I shouldn't compare the books to each other. They're so different. I think I am going to give them a 7 though, just because I wasn't invested in them, and I am a character-driven reader. I want to feel attached to the characters, but I think that they were well written. I think that these are going to be memorable characters. I think there's room for me to fall for them. But I think right now it is a solid 7 on characters, though I will say I do believe that their motivations were right. They acted their age. But did you feel for them? I think that's the part I struggle with the most. They're definitely distinguishable from each other. They have their own voices. I understand them for the most part. They're definitely nuanced. Yeah, I think it's a 7 though. The side characters, don't go into this for the side characters. Trust me, there are a million of them. Could you describe the characters to a friend? That is such a good question, and I don't know that I could. I am gonna give them a 7. Plot. This is more of a plot heavy book, I would say, but it does feel like a first book in a series. We're setting up to a lot, but a lot is happening, and if you're into plots where it's a lot of action, I think that's nailed it. Are there plot holes or plot conveniences? How's the pacing? I think the pacing was really well done. I didn't find it was uneven at any point. Hidden Easter eggs. I'm the wrong person to ask about hidden Easter eggs, especially in something like this. This is one of those books I'll probably have to reread to see everything. Was the story satisfying for the story itself? I would say for the most part. It is a first in a series. It was definitely unique. There were some unique elements to it. I was all about the Griffins. I think the plot in this is pretty strong. So I'm gonna give the plot in this one an 8. Maybe an 8.5. An 8.5 feels like a good spot. Now this is where this book shines. World building. I'm tempted to give world building here a 10. I thought the world building in here was fantastic. It's a lot. There's a lot to take in. Let me see if I can show you. These character maps and the places and all that stuff. This is just not my vibe, but I had to reference this quite a bit. But you're getting, I appreciated that this is more than a character map. I did find that helpful. You can tell that the authors put a lot of work into building this world, building the politics, building the religion. The religion in here is so strong, and I don't think of myself as somebody who likes religion and fantasy, but maybe I do, because the religion in here was the most interesting to me. There's discussions about death. I just thought it was really intricate. I do think that this might be a 10 in world building. I don't know much more you could ask for in terms of world building here. Maybe less confusion, but that's just a me problem. I know that. The writing. Well, the writing I think was fine. I think the writing was, I think that comes in with the pacing too. It was pretty readable. I didn't think, even though there was a lot happening and I know I was confused, I never felt like I had to go back and read something or that something was written strangely. I actually thought the writing was pretty good, so I'd probably give the writing an 8. I didn't see any. I liked the themes. I thought the themes were good. I thought it definitely made sense for the genre that this is in. Yeah, I thought that this was really good. The dialogue was well executed. I thought it was just readable. It's not like anything you're gonna write home about, but I thought it was solid. So I'm gonna give it an 8. That feels right. Enjoyment. Now this is where it gets tricky, because even though I gave it high scores, did I give it a 7? I'm already forgetting. A 7, an 8.5, a 10, and an 8. I think it's a 7 in enjoyment for me, just because it's so out of my comfort zone. So that's like, this is just my bias, this is just my taste. But I'm so open to reading the next book, and 7 is still really, really good, and I had a fun time with it. If you've watched any of the streams I was reading this, I kept saying it was fun, and I just did not expect this to be fun. Fun, but violent and gruesome, and you do feel for the characters even though I wasn't connected to them. The politics were a lot. The religion was so interesting. So like, there was a lot to unpack in this. I just think it was too much for me. It's just not what I'm used to, so it's a 7. But I think that's pretty good. I should put these all in and see what that comes out to on here. It's an 8.1, which means that I liked it more than Small Miracles, which means I gave it a better score than I gave Small Miracles, which is really interesting. See, the way this plays out is so surprising to me, and objectively, I feel like that's probably correct. I actually had more issues with the pacing in this one, and it felt more like it was dragging a bit in the middle, and I never felt that with this one. So I don't know, I think that's going to be surprising for people to see that A Touch of Light is, I like A Touch of Light more than Small Miracles, but in my ranking I do think I have it that way. So that is shocking, and I can't wait to put this in so that Cassidy can see the score I gave it. But yeah, I don't know which one I'm going to read next. I think Scales and Sensibility, because the audiobook is on Scribd. It was on my wish list for Christmas. I won't be reading any before Christmas, I don't think. I know it's the 16th and I have time, but I just want to read my Christmas romances right now. I need a break. This was just so much. So you probably won't see me again until after Christmas, but this is just, I'm having so much fun with this. It is December 27th, so a couple days after Christmas, and obviously Santa got the SPFBO memo. He knew that I had to read the SPFBO Finalists, so I was gifted 4 of the books on the list, and I'm starting with Scales and Sensibility. Who's this by? By Stephanie Burgess, and I have to say this is reading so fast. I will talk more about that in a second. I just want to show you the other ones that I got so I can put them down. This is The 13th Hour by Trudy Skies, Mysterious Ways by Abby Evans, and the one that I'm most excited about and think I will love the most, Miss Percy's Pocket Guide to the Care and Feeding of British Dragons by Quimby Olsen. So I was excited to get all of those. These are probably the ones I most wanted to own, because the other ones are like a horror, and thicker fantasies. So I will probably just read those ones on my Kindle. So I am on chapter 7 of this book here, and it's giving me like Jane Austen vibes a little bit. It's really light, that can't take it too seriously, but it starts with like the classic Pride and Prejudice line. It was a truth universally acknowledged that any young lady without a dragon was doomed to social failure. So I liked seeing that. I think this world building in this, in this setting, you have to rely a lot on what you already know about this era, what you know about Jane Austen. I do like our main character quite a bit. I'm loving the dragon. The twist in here was kind of fun. I didn't really know much about this because I had to read it, and so I just picked it up. And so far of the 3 that I've read, this is the most readable, the most accessible. I think I will finish this quite quickly, definitely before the end of the year, and I can come back and go through the rubric and everything. A bit insta-lovey, but I think that's on purpose, because that's kind of like what romance was back then, and I think it's kind of making fun of itself a little bit, so I just think it's a good time. I'm loving the vibes of this. I like the dialogue's pretty good in here, but really it's all about the dragons, and yeah, I think this is good. I'm having a good time. I actually think that it is more accessible than Small Miracles by Olivia Atwater, even though that's one I would universally recommend. this is one I think is, you can actually get through this in one sitting, and if I had the time, I probably would do that. And I'm also listening to the audiobook on Scribd. It is the one book from the finalists that is available on audio on Scribd. So if you are interested in that, grab this. So I'll update you when I'm finished, and then we'll see what I'm gonna start next. I don't know if I should start something on the Kindle now. I'm just so scared of those books, but we will see. No promises. Okay, it is December 29th, and I actually finished Scales and Sensibility yesterday. And I feel like I was low energy in the last clip just because I was coming off of the holidays. And I don't think I really talked a lot about this book, but I had a great time with this. It was the quickest that I've read one of these books so far. I think it's kind of made for that. I thought that the author did a good job of capturing like the silliness of Jane Austen and is kind of self-aware in that way. This is not like a Pride and Prejudice retelling or a Sense and Sensibility retelling. It's a Regency romance that kind of has the vibes of being a Jane Austen novel. And I do think a lot of the world building and stuff comes from being familiar with Austen. So if you're not, you probably won't appreciate this as much, but it really is like reading a new original Austen novel, and she just decided to throw in a dragon, and it's fun. I had such a good time with this. I mean, the magic didn't all make sense to me, but it didn't make sense to the characters either. In this world, dragons are very new, and they don't have magic, or so people think. It's all just from the fairy tales and the myths that were around, and people didn't think dragons were real, and now they are. It's very fashionable for like women of high society to have pet dragons, and they wear them on their shoulders and stuff. And we are following a young girl whose mother and father have died, and they've lost all their money because their father was scammed out of the money, and all of the sisters were placed with different family members. And following this girl who is not being treated well, she has to run away from this family, and hijinks ensues from there. And it is a romance. I really like the romance. I thought it was sweet. It is instant love. The romance, she says she's in love with this guy 2 days in, and I can't say much more, I don't want to spoil it, but it's ridiculous. But I think that's on purpose. That's kind of Austen-esque, and I appreciated all of this. I just thought that this was fun. It's not going to be something you think about a long time afterwards or anything like that, but if it's a perfect palate cleanser after reading something like A Touch of Light, or I've started The Umbral Storm. I'll talk about that in a future clip. I'm not far enough to have any opinions on that one yet. It's just scary to me. Okay, let's go through this rubric. And for characters, I actually thought maybe the characters were the strongest part of this. Do I like the characters more than the characters in Small Miracles? This is the problem. I start comparing all of these books, but I actually think that I did. I think I'm gonna give the characters an 8. Plot, the plot was fun. Like, is the plot anything that unique? Not really, but it is a Regency romance, and I did think that adding the dragons added something special and made this more fun. I'm gonna give that a 7.5. World building, I think this is probably where it's the lowest because it's based in Regency England with dragons, so a lot of the world building is just based on what you already know. The dragons we don't know much about because the characters don't know much about them, so it's hard to really say that the world building or the setting is that important here or does anything that fantastic. But I do like Regency England. I like reading about it, but I'm gonna give it a 6. I just don't think that that was anything special. Writing, I mean, I liked the writing. I don't know that it was as strong as the writing in like A Touch of Light or Small Miracles, but it's not terrible writing. I think I'm gonna give it a 7, but I think a lot of that just comes from the fact that this is supposed to be more quirky, lighthearted, and fun. So it's not like a deeply quotable book or anything, but I think the writing did work for what it was trying to do. And then my enjoyment, is my enjoyment a 9? Like, I feel like I really liked this. I think I did like this more than Small Miracles. I might give this a 9, or do I give it an 8.5? Because tonally they're very similar, and I did get like similar vibes. I think I will give that an 8.5 as well, which makes this a 7.4. So it is, of the 3 that I've read so far, it is my least favorite technically in terms of the score and the rubric. But if you just go based on enjoyment, it is tied for first place with Small Miracles, which makes sense to me. And it's a surprise because I don't think I put this that high on my predictions list because I was worried that the author would struggle to capture the tone of an Austen novel, and I often feel like the characters that Austen creates might be annoying in the wrong hands, but she didn't. This character wasn't annoying at all. I actually really liked her. So I think she did a fantastic job. Cannot wait for the sequel, and I will definitely be following Stephanie Burgess's career. Okay, so it is January 9th, and I don't think I've updated this vlog in a minute. And that's because I started the 13th hour before the new year and then just got distracted by other things. And I finally picked this up, and I didn't give you any updates in between, and I think a lot of that is just because I wanted to get through this. And I don't think this is a bad book. I just don't think it's a me book. So I think the writing is really well done. I love the world building. I think that this is going to go into a really interesting direction. I just don't know if it's a series I'm going to continue. I liked the quirkiness of it, but I had some issues with the pacing. It dragged. I honestly think that if I didn't have to read it for this project that we are doing, I might have DNF'd it, but not because it's bad, just because it's not me. And if I wasn't doing this project, I wouldn't have tried it. So that is actually a bonus. That is actually a good thing. I would try something else by this author. I just don't think that this was for me. I wouldn't recommend the audiobook for this, first of all, because I had such a hard time distinguishing between the characters to begin with, and I don't think the narrator did a great job of helping with that, though I do think that they are a talented narrator. I liked their voice. I just don't think it helped me distinguish between our two main characters, who are Kale and Gwen. And Kale has a voice inside her head that is also a character, which I thought was a clever idea but got tedious, and I just don't think it added anything to the story. I thought that everything with the gods, there are 12 different realms in here, so I thought that there was a lot of potential to really explore different cultures and stuff, different magic, different people, different religions, why they worship these gods. I thought all that had so much potential, but I just don't think we went there with this. But maybe it does in future books in the series. We just got a small portion of the potential that this series could have. And I don't know, the plot kind of meandered for me. I don't think this needed to be as big as it was. It was over 500 pages. Just not my favorite, though I do think that there is potential here. I know that a lot of people are loving this. I just think it's something I have to unpack in myself as the kind of book fantasy that I like, and I just don't think that this is it. Which is kind of sad because I think I had this pretty high rated in my predictions, but so far it's my least favorite in terms of enjoyment, and I've already put this through Cassidy's rubric, but I'm going to tell you the ratings that I gave it. So I gave characters a 5, and I think a lot of that is just because, as I said, I had a hard time distinguishing between them, and I don't think I understood motivations. The side characters weren't very strong. I thought that the gods were kind of like caricatures. I wanted more depth to them. The plot I gave a 6. It's kind of a basic plot, and I just thought it went on too long, and I'm just not a plot driven reader, and I do think that this is a plot heavy book. World building I gave a 7. I thought that it had the beginnings of a really great world, and I think that this is something that the author will expand upon in future books. The writing was a 7. I don't have any issues with the writing. It was okay writing. I didn't catch anything that was weird or that I didn't appreciate, but my overall enjoyment was a 6. So my score comes to a 6.2, which I think is just a solid 3, which I don't think is bad. I don't know, I just thought I would like this steampunky vibe, and it just didn't quite work for me. I just don't know if I like all the gods and stuff. Cruel Gods is the name of the series, and I think that is accurately named, but I don't know, it just wasn't my favorite, but I didn't hate it, and I would recommend it. So I have read 4 books for SPFBO so far, and I think that's going to be the end of this vlog. I know I said that I started The Umbral Storm, but I wasn't in the mood for it, and that is one that scares me. So what I actually think I'm going to do is, there are obviously 10 finalists. I'm going to read 4 more in the next vlog, and then leave The Umbral Storm, which is the one that I predicted will be my least favorite, and Miss Percy's Pocket Guide, which I think is going to be my favorite. I'm going to leave those 2 for their own separate vlog, but my next vlog will be on the other 4 that I still have to read. So I still have to read Tethered Spirit, A Song for the Void, Mysterious Ways, and Fire of the Forebears. So I'll read those 4 in the next vlog, and then my final vlog will be pitting the one that I think I'll love the most against the one I think I'll love the least, and see what happens. there. So I hope you enjoyed this. This has been really interesting for me. It's really got me motivated to read more self-published work. I have added so many to my TBR, and I think that is just a good thing to have come from this. So thank you all for your support. I'll talk to you again really soon. I don't know when I will pick up these next 4 books, but it better be soon because I think April's gonna be here before we know it. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.